Bryan, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. So, where are you joining us from today?
I am in Statesville, North Carolina.
Where's that?
That's about 45 minutes away from Charlotte. That's about the easiest way to tell you that.
So, was your area one that was devastated by the hurricane?
Well, we had a lot of flooding here. We do live on the Catawba chain of rivers, but about an hour north of here, up in the mountains, was pretty devastating. I went up there and volunteered for 3 days helping out, and it was just something I've never seen before in my life.
And are they still rebuilding? I mean, that we all know
Yes,
that
sir.
the Biden administration didn't offer much help
No,
whatsoever.
they didn't. They're still rebuilding. We've actually got some projects going in that area and working with some other organizations trying to help rebuild veterans' homes up in that area.
Wow. Yeah, it was a sad deal. And just, I mean, that was the main thing for me. Like, wow, we let all these illegals in, but we can't even take care of our own people.
Right. Yeah, it was devastating being up there. I went up to Swananoa. Actually, we went into Asheville first, and they sent us to Swananoa because it was such a hit area and it's right on the river. And the company I used to work for had a lot in that area. They sold buildings, wood buildings, and metal buildings, and it was completely wiped out. Um, and it was something like I've never seen before. I've never seen a war zone, but that's the only thing I can describe it as.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, I see you've got a sign behind you that says "Wishing I Was Fishing." You've got some
Yeah,
largemouth back there as well. I understand you were in Texas last week.
I was. I got to go play in a fundraiser golf tournament there on Lake Fork. Um, and we had a great turnout and raised a lot of money for a lot of different organizations there. But we were just happened to be one of the beneficiaries, and they made the mistake of pairing me with a Lake Fork guide that lives on the lake there. And he looked at me about 7 or 8 o'clock, and he says, "You want to go night fishing?" And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "I fish about 100 nights a year here at my home lake. I run a um, Carolina Elite Series. We got about 11,000 members on it, and we post all kind of tournaments. It's a big lake, a lot of tournaments, but night fishing's really big here. And I got to go catch a good Lake Fork bass that I was happy, and some sand bass and different things. But I've never seen so many gars in my life on that lake.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them there.
Yeah.
So what was the biggest one you caught?
Well, his scales got wet, so they're a little broke. We it's somewhere in the 4 to 4.5 pound range. I think that would be
Okay.
a good guesstimate in my book.
And what did you catch it on?
Caught it on crankbait. Yeah,
Okay. Uh-huh.
yeah,
And you do a lot of night fishing back home.
I do. I
So
actually
why is
fished.
night fishing such a big deal there? I mean, like I've gone night fishing some. Usually it's been for catfish, and
Right,
I don't. I'm not some hardcore catfishing. I'd much rather go bass fishing personally.
right.
I'm not
Me
knocking
too.
catfishing or trot lining or any of that stuff. It's great fun,
It
and makes
is.
for a hell of a fish fry. But
Lake
most of
Norman
my night
has a
fishing has been running around golf course ponds, trying
yeah,
not to. Because
yeah,
that's when they don't kick you off, right?
yeah, yeah. That's right. It's just Lake Norman has 520 miles of shorelines. There's $1 million mansions all over it. It's lit up very well. It's a very clean lake to run. I mean, Lake Fork, you turn the light on, you look to your left and your right, and you see stumps and trees, and you're like holding your breath the whole time. But Lake
Hmm.
Norman is very runnable, and the bass just bites so good at night.
So, what is your personal best largemouth?
7 pounds on Lake Hickory, which is a couple lakes above ours. I caught it in a
Hmm.
tournament, thought I was going to get big fish because North Carolina just doesn't have the fish that Lake Fork got and
Right.
Texas has. Um, I come in and I was our third big fish. I mean, I thought, 7 pounds is going to be, that's my biggest fish in tournament fishing and
Uh-huh.
pond fishing, golf courses and stuff. I grew up on a golf course. My parents owned one. We had 5 ponds, so that was my extent of fishing until I um, got into bass fishing with a friend of mine.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, 7 pounds. I mean, big bass is one of those things. It's like big deer. It's all relative to the area,
Right.
the region,
Exactly.
Texas, Florida, California. Yeah, we have amazing big bass, right?
Big bass. Yeah,
That doesn't mean that other places, which you see the professional tours, they travel all over the country,
they
and
do.
they'll tell you the fisheries are just as good in other places. It's just the size of the
Right.
bass aren't.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually fish with about 3 elite pros here. Well, KJ Queen actually fished with us last night. Hank Cherry, who's won the Bassmaster Classic twice.
mhm,
Shane LaHue, who actually got his Century Belt Club on Lake Fort last year. I fish with them guys regularly. So I
mhm,
actually fish partners with Shane and Hank some, and then KJ. I buy a lot of tackle from KJ. They make a lure that I
uh-huh.
really like.
Hank's been on the show before. I'd have to go. I'd have to pull it up. It's been 7 or 8 years probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was interesting to see when MLF, you know, and the Elite Series went their separate ways. Who stayed
Hmm.
and who went, and some have now gone back and forth,
Right.
and I don't know. I don't think it was really good for bass fishing in general.
I don't think it was. It was, now the NPFL's going on, which Shane and KJ and Hank, they're all fishing that, which is no forward facing sonar. A lot of
Hmm.
guys are doing that. And when they drop the entry fees for the elite guys, that give them opportunity to go fish the NPFL and pay the money.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I've done forward-facing sonar quite a bit. Mostly going out with guides. I don't have my own boat, so
right.
and I've done it crappie fishing and bass fishing, and it's it's like video game fishing.
It is. It helps. I
Yeah.
try to tell people I'm not the greatest at it, but when I roll up on a pier and I see there's fish under it, I'm going to spend a little more time there. If I go and I don't see anything, I'm going to the next pier because we
Hmm.
literally got hundreds of thousands of docks on this lake.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think now I will say the guys that are good at it, it's not like you can just turn on forward-facing sonar and be like, "Oh, I understand it. Now I'm excellent."
Yeah,
No, it
right.
takes practice. Like
Lots of
to understand
practice.
where the fish is. A lot of times you're casting while the boat's still moving,
Hmm.
and to know exactly, well, that fish is right there. Well, I can see it on the sonar, but sonar's like backwards, so like
Right.
you're trying to figure all this out. um it's the guys that can really understand technology can do really well with it. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the old timers are like, eh, this uh this is cheating.
Yeah.
Like I knew how to find fish the good old fashioned way through experience and
Yeah.
intuition and water levels and vegetation, all this other stuff. And now people can just be like,
Right.
let me just turn the screen on.
Yeah.
Texas Parks and Wildlife released a study recently. We had on a biologist to discuss it, um, where they did a multi-year study on crappie harvest and whether forward-facing sonar was going to deplete our crappie fisheries.
Mm.
And what they found was no, because you can't harvest enough crappie.
No.
They said you would have to harvest 80%. This was their findings, 3 year study, multiple lakes. You would have to harvest 80% of all fish. Legal fish in Texas are 12 inches or longer.
Right.
So 80% of all legal crappie would have to be harvested in a year for you to see a substantial difference. It's
Wow.
like we just have so many crappie, and also the forward facing sonar crowd is more apt to release fish anyway.
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I found that very interesting that they're like, no, it's not. Now it is affecting bass harvest.
Yeah.
No, not harvest, catch rates, not
Catching.
harvest.
Yeah.
Everyone's releasing bass anyway. Catch rates are certainly up, but then how? Where is the breaking point where okay, now these fish are so educated that they're harder to catch?
Right.
So I don't know. That'll be the next conversation.
Yeah, and that's a good thing about night fishing. They kind of get up on them rocks and chasing shad and crawdads and brim. And our lake has tons of recreation traffic. I mean, big boats. And I don't like going out there during the day anymore.
Yeah. So the bass are up shallow in the
Mm.
night
Yep.
night hours. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
easier. That's what they always told me, that a guy that fishes at night just can't catch them during the day. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that. I do okay during the day, but yeah,
Mm.
it's it's we got a lot of good fishermen in this area that fish a lot of the pros tours.
Uh-huh. And so are any of these tournaments specifically held at night? The ones that
Oh
you're
yeah,
in?
yeah. We fish every Monday and every Friday night. From 6:30 to 11:30 on Monday nights, and then on Friday nights we go 7 to 2, and sometimes we'll go to 4. Like we got a really big shad spawn in April and May, and the shad come up and the fish just go crazy. Every big fish in the lakes, 6 inches of water chasing shad, and you throw a lot of top water baits and you just kill them. I mean, we had 20 pound nights. If you didn't have 19 or 22 pounds, you wasn't going to win, and that's
Mm.
big for our area. That's nothing for Texas. So, but
Still, I mean, that's an average of
yeah,
5 pounds of fish.
yeah. It
If
took
you give it that.
13 pounds last night to win, um, which was, it's getting to that transition where they're going deeper now.
Yeah.
And I know I lost a 4 pounder early, and then I lost a 3 pounder, and then I lost a 2.5 pounder. And I ended up with like right at 12 pounds and coming like fourth. But
Uh-huh.
you get the 4 pounder in, I win. I'm just a
Yeah.
pound. You're always a pound away from winning here because
Hmm.
everybody catches about the same amount.
So you guys are actually having your weigh-ins at like 2 a.m.?
Yep.
This is
Yep.
crazy to me. I've never heard of nighttime tournament.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
we have our working man tournaments in Texas, local bass clubs usually
Right.
start around 4 in the afternoon, fish till
Yep.
dark, and then have the
Yep.
weigh-in. But if having a weigh-in in the middle of the night, I've never.
Yeah.
Maybe this is more common than I
It
understand it to be, but
it's really big in this area. I know Lake Wiley
mm,
does it, Lake Hickory does it. Norman has been doing it for years and years. I can remember, I don't
mm,
know, 20 years ago when I didn't fish, they were night fishing.
mm. My
So
mind is blown. My dad always tells me, you know, he would coach my dad in baseball in like junior high, and then they'd already have the boat hooked up, and they'd be
yeah,
going to Lake of the Pines or name the lake around here, Lake Worth. But he was a huge crappie fisherman, and he was like,
right.
he worked, and then he coached baseball, and then he was like, we night fish, and he also didn't like
Yeah.
the heat,
Yeah. I
so.
agree with that 100%.
Yeah. So my
And
dad
it
spent
gets
many
hot
a
in
nights
Texas.
with my grandfather. Richland Chambers, another one of his favorite lakes. But yeah, and
Yeah.
he couldn't care less about bass. It was all
Yeah.
all crappie, occasionally
He wanted to eat them.
catfish. That's right. And then they'd have a big fish fry at the church.
Yeah.
And yeah, but my dad's a huge bass fisherman. He likes crappie. He's like me. He could care less about catfish, but he'll go crappie fishing. But his main thing is bass fishing.
Yeah. I know we've got about, I don't know, 4 or 5 different preachers that fish with us. And
Mm,
we have one that we have a fish fry. He does a fish fry every year before our big tournaments and stuff. And man, he does a lot of crappie fishing, and we got a spotted bass here that's really good eating, and you can catch them. They're easy to catch. They're
uh-huh.
more aggressive than the largemouth. So, but we're getting 4 and 5 pound spotted bass now. So it's
Huh.
really helped our lake. And then we introduced F1s into it a couple of years ago. We had a program where we raised $20,000, and then North Carolina said, "You raise this amount, put this in, and we'll match it." So we're starting to see our largemouth population go up, and weights are going up. It used to take 10 or 12 pounds to win a term around here. Now on the weekends, if you don't have, especially in the winter, if you don't have 19 to 21 pounds, you're not going to win.
Mm. It's crazy because when you look at wildlife, cervids, deer, specifically, the further north you go, the bigger bodied they get. Not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the racks. I mean,
Right.
you could have a 200-inch deer in Texas just as easily as you can somewhere in the Midwest or
Yep.
Ontario, name it. But their bodies get bigger
Yep.
for sure. Now, that's not the same with bass. You go farther north and they get smaller.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like they like that warm weather. They grow in the
yeah,
warm weather.
right.
Uh, so, but that's good that you guys have introduced the F1 strain
Yeah,
and you're starting to reap the benefits
yeah. There's
of making
five
that
pounders weighing
investment.
in there. Yeah, 5 pounders are weighed in regularly, and I can remember back when I first started fishing, the 5 pounder or 6 pounder was, a unicorn. Now we're
Mm.
weighing in 4 or 5 a night on Friday nights.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes 4 or 5, 6 pounders.
Yeah.
I know I
So,
took a
what is
guy
your?
with me last year. He tied a 712 on a little bitty swim
Oh,
bait. So uh,
uh-huh. What
Norman's
is
got
your
some
favorite bait for nighttime fishing in
chatterbait.
chatterbait?
Chatterbait.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Huh.
caught thousands of fish on a chatterbait. But I'm a jig fisherman. In the daytime, I love throwing a jig, skipping it up under docks.
Uh-huh.
Um, but you better in the wintertime, it's crankbait, Alabama rig, jerk baits. It's that kind of stuff there. So I fish with a lot of good fishermen that has taught me a lot. See, I
Mm.
grew up as a golf professional. When I was growing up, everybody was fishing and hunting, and I was playing golf. I played golf 380 days a year. I played twice a day sometimes. But growing up on a golf course, my mother and father owned the golf course ever since I was 10 years old. And all I wanted to be was a professional golfer. So, I
What
love
happened?
base. Well, I turned pro at 19. I went
Uh-huh.
one semester of college, decided college wasn't for me. I went turned pro at 19, got my class A professional card, played in local events, tried to qualify for some back then it was Nike events or Ben Hogan tours, like Corn Ferry Tour is now, and
Yeah.
tried to qualify for the GGO here locally in Bryan Park. And I think I teed off at like 1 or 2 o'clock, and it was full. People was playing at 8 o'clock. I think there was 4 spots. When I teed off, there had been two course records shot, and you had to shoot 66 to get in the playoff before I even teed off. So I was like, well,
Oh.
I'm in the wrong sport. And so I started having the kids, ended up with four of them. The day my second child was born, I got out of golf and started doing industrial floor coatings, epoxies, and urethanes. And then that's what I did up until I was 48 years old. And then I sold my
Uh-huh.
company and decided to start doing something else and kind
Yeah.
of dabbled around with different things. And then I ran into Paul Cockerham from Purple Heart Homes, went to school with him. And he said, "What are you doing now?" So I'm looking for a job. He said, "I've got the job for you." He said, "Don't
Huh.
take any other jobs." And I said, "Well, what is it?" He said, "Well, it's taking veterans on outdoor adventures." And
Yeah. That doesn't stink.
I said, "Okay, you got my attention. Let's talk."
Uh-huh.
So I go in and talk to John, who I taught John's kids in Sunday school. I've known John and Corianne for a while. I knew the story of Purple Heart Homes, but I didn't really know what they did and what the organization did until I went over there and met with them. And then I had another job offer, and it was a really good job, and it was good money. And then I said, it's not about the money; it's about the mission. And after they talked to me and told me, and I come home and told my wife, I thought she was going to say, take the money. She said, Bryan, this job is tailor made for you. You've been in the
Mm-hmm.
hunting and the fishing industry for years. And, that's kind of where I felt like the Lord was wanting me to do this to help veterans. And, I've been fortunate to go all over this country hunting and fishing. I've hunted, I started Danny game calls with Mitchell Johnson. Well, I assisted him. It's his company. Back in 2011, I was doing some local hunting shows here in the late, 2008, 9, 10. I've hunted with Drop Zone TV, Hal Schaefer, and Greg Zippindelli. I've actually been to Clay County Turkey Fest in Texas with them. I don't know if
Oh
that's,
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I've been there.
I drove
Uh,
through Clay County yesterday on my way
did
home
you?
from the deer lease.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's,
I was
big,
moving
big
my
ranches.
my camper from one lease to another and realized I had a leak in it. So I was 1 hour from my new deer lease
Uh huh.
and instead, I ended up driving the camper 4 hours back home to work on it this
Oh,
week.
wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
man.
Leaks
But
suck,
yeah,
but yeah, it's
I've been,
campers are like boats, man.
they are. Yeah. You lose money as
Maybe
soon as
not
you
quite
get
as
them.
expensive to fix, but geez, there's always something breaking on them.
I hit a log with my boat the other night, I guess. I don't know. We've had a lot of rain, stuff floaters, and I didn't notice it for a couple times, but I broke a piece off the lower unit. It still
Mm.
runs, it still looks good. So, a new lower unit for a little bitty piece that big was going to be $12,000 for a whole new lower unit. Or there's somebody who can weld it and make it look like brand new for $1,000. So I think that's the route that
Hmm.
I'm gonna go. You turn in on insurance, they're gonna cancel you. $12 thousand
Yeah.
dollars for you know. So I think I'll just take it. So yeah,
$12,000 is more than what I paid for my headache of a camper. I had a
right.
guy out here yesterday because whenever I would turn the shower on, I would get water coming up from underneath the floor by the master's bedroom, if you could
Oh
call it a
wow,
bedroom in a camper.
it's not
The
good.
carpet
Yeah,
would just get wet. And so like the last three times I was out there during turkey season, I just didn't turn the water on and just
yeah,
gave myself a whore bath, and
yeah,
the whole nine yard. Like, and but something there was another leak, and I was like, you know what? I just bring this thing home. And so I had a guy out yesterday to kind of. I thought he was gonna have to rip the flooring out, and he just opened up this compartment and was like, nah, it's your. He's like, it's your water pump's causing you the problem. He's like, but we're just gonna. He said, are you boondocking, like, using your water tank and getting out in the sticks? And I was like, no, this is going to sit at a deer lease and I'm going to have city
yeah,
water run to it. He's like, well, then we're not even going to fix your water pump. We're just going to bypass it at this T here. It's now not part of the equation.
yeah,
Yeah. So it was good news and it was only
yeah.
$170. But I told him, I was like, yeah, I bought this camper for, I think I paid $7,100 for it 2 years ago. He's like, man, this is a nice camper for that
Yeah, I was going to
price. And I
say
was like,
that's. I paid
thanks,
five
because
hundred for my first camper.
yeah.
I
Well, I
bought a
had to. The whole goal was to get something nice enough that I could afford, that the wife would
right.
feel comfortable still staying in.
I get it.
And we
I
don't
get
keep
it.
any food in it. Like, I'm not trying to attract rodents. Like, it is.
Right.
We cook all of our cooking outside. We don't store any food in there, so I don't have to deal with the mice. Because I have had a camper in Oklahoma where I think we paid more on the $500 level,
Yeah.
and we didn't have water or electricity. We had a generator we could take out there, but it was cockroaches and
Oh
mice
yeah.
central. You could hear them running across the floor at night.
Yeah.
My
Yeah. I
wife
think
ain't
I had a
interested in that.
1956 with the wings on it and everything, and I rolled that thing into hunting camp there. Had a little over the bed was up top, and I thought I
Uh
was
huh.
big time.
Oh yeah.
That thing
Yeah.
lasted forever, but it while everybody was in the bunkhouse snoring, I was out there sleeping.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. The first year I was on this lease that we just got off of, I think it was on there. I was on there 3 years. Um, I didn't have a camper, and I got on this lease last minute because our other place sold. You know how it is; leases come and go.
uh,
And my son and I spent that whole season in a wall tent, and he was like 8 or 9. It was
wow.
cold.
Yeah,
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 good
I
memories,
guarantee it.
but
Yeah.
not one that I want to relive if I don't have
No,
to.
I've graduated now. I picked up a couple thousand acres in the northern part of our or northeastern part of our state, and it's got really big deer. The North Carolina state record came from them three counties up there, but an eighth of a mile from where the guy killed a 226 non-typical,
Oh
and
wow.
I've gotten in with some farmers, and I've had it for 20 something years now. We've killed a lot of 140s, 150s, and 160s, and a couple 170s. Well, one
Those
170.
those are nice deer anywhere.
They are. I and
Yeah.
and that's what I tell people when I hunted with uh, Adrenaline Adventures and them guys. I've been all over this country, and I've been fortunate enough to go to all these places, Illinois and Canada, and just anywhere. And I go to my place, and I just feel like that's where I should be, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm killing 130s, 140s there. You go to Ohio and stuff, and you're thinking you're going to kill a 170, 180. Well, it's not. That's not reality. 130
Mm-hmm.
is a good deer anywhere.
I shot a 135 in Pike County, Illinois, and I was there
Yeah.
looking for the 170. But you know what?
Yep.
I didn't see the 170. So
That's
it
right.
was a nice, mature 8 point. And oh, it's also funny, and I've told this story before, but a lot of times these, and I don't know what your baiting laws are in North Carolina. Can you bait there?
You can. You can.
Okay.
I
So
think
you
they've
can put up a deer
stopped it.
feeder?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've got deer.
So,
I've got 150s eating out of a feeder, and they said, "How do you get them to eat out of a feeder?" I said, "They've been eating out of it since they were a baby. I mean, their
yeah.
mothers took them to that feeder when they were born, so it's nothing to them."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But these guys in the Midwest, or certainly Illinois, you can't
No.
bait. But what you can do is buy X bushels. That's how he described it to me. The outfitter told he had an arrangement with the farmer. He's like, leave this many
Yep.
bushels
Yep.
unharvested. And then he would go in there the day before the hunter arrives and manipulate it, mow some of the
Yep.
soybeans down. And I'm like, I'm sitting in a box blind, just like I do in Texas, with a muzzle
Mhm.
loader. I'm like, this is a giant feeder. There's
Yeah.
50 deer in this field, and I can shoot every one of them.
Yeah.
Like you don't tell
I
me that
get it.
feeders are bad because
Yeah.
this is the same. It's just you're manipulating a food source the same as we're providing one.
Right.
Um, so I think it's funny, but
Yeah.
just and neither one's right or wrong. It's
No.
just you do
I,
you and a lot of people's uh fundamental ideology on hunting ethics is based on where they grew up. Like, well, we didn't
right.
do that, so anything else is abnormal or unethical. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, if your
It's
state
legal.
agency says
Yeah.
it's legal, then I don't think ethics come into play. Like,
Yeah. It's kind
yeah.
of like the forward facing sonar against not. It's you know
I
you,
don't
you
know if
use
feeders are as big of a cheat code as forward facing sonar.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I invite
But yeah.
anyone, come down to the South Texas brush, all these Western DIY guys, which I
Yeah.
love it. I'm burned my Colorado mule deer points this year. I'm going to Colorado. I always hunt out west at least once a year,
Right.
on a public land DIY draw and hunt.
Hmm. Hmm.
And these guys are like, oh, y'all hunted a feeder. Oh, okay. Come down to the South Texas brush country, bring your bow, and go shoot a mature buck
Right.
without a feeder. See, do
You
it.
ain't gonna,
I'd love to see it.
yeah.
It's impenetrable. You're not going to see the deer unless they come
No.
out of the brush. So
Hmm.
you got to provide them a reason to come out.
Yeah. We have 500 acres in Virginia and about 1,500 in North Carolina because the line is just right there, and you can't bait in Virginia at all. But I've killed some really nice deer hunting them the right way. But I'm lazy. I'm old now. I want to go sit in the blind and watch them come out. And I hadn't shot a deer in 2 years, but I've got
Mm,
two son-in-laws, got grandsons now, and they enjoy shooting 120 or 30-inch deer. And I'm looking for the 150 now. That's just it. Well, I'm
yeah.
not getting them because they're shooting them as soon as they come out a year or two early, and they're
Yeah.
enjoying it, and I'm enjoying it. But
Yeah.
you kind of the older you get, I was never a fisherman. I started deer hunting and I loved it. I mean, I'm a turkey hunter and a deer hunter, but I hadn't killed a turkey since 2016 because my son, I take other people hunting now. I've
Yeah.
taught them up for other people and I enjoy that more. And that's what kind of leads me into taking these veterans on outdoor adventures. I get more excited doing that than I did when I killed a 150-inch deer because these guys
Mm,
just don't have the opportunity to go and do this in their I mean they don't have land or they live in the city or whatever it is, and to go catch a
mm,
fish with them it's just exciting.
yeah. Well, so Purple Heart Homes, they help veterans remodel, a lot of times rebuild their
Yeah.
homes or
Hmm.
provide, as with the founder, um, drawing a blank. What's his name?
Dale and John.
Dale. Dale.
Dale.
Yeah.
Dale.
Dale's the one who
That's it.
passed away.
Yes. Yeah. Dale
And
passed.
so he was a double amputee,
Hmm.
gets blown up on in active duty in, I
With
believe it was
John.
Iraq.
Yeah.
Yeah, with John. They both
Yeah.
got blown up.
Yeah.
Dale got the worst of it. We've
Yes.
had John on the show before, and John gets shipped to a hospital and then is immediately back on the front lines. Like, uh, you know, he had some PTSD and had, their Humvee got blown up.
Yeah.
So he had to deal with that. But Dale lost his legs. Okay, John eventually comes back home, and Dale's married, has kids, but how can Dale get around his house?
Right.
All these surgeries later, and um, so that's I guess how Purple Heart Homes was founded.
Right.
They've I don't know how many veterans they've helped rebuild their lives, um, through their home. What's more important than your home, right?
Right. I think we did our 1500 project last month. We all got t-shirts.
Mm, 15,
So
wow.
we've helped over
1,500.
1500 veterans.
Yeah, it's significant.
You think
Um,
about that. I mean, that's a lot of
lives change. And I don't
lives
I could ask
changed.
you what's the most rewarding part of working with Purple Heart Homes, but you've already answered that, right?
I
Like
have, yeah, yeah,
there it is.
yeah,
You're
yeah. I
giving these
took a
guys their
gentleman.
lives back.
Yeah, I took a gentleman to Texas fishing, and we did his home, and we went. I went to the reveal of what we did for him. We put a new roof on and worked on some windows and some different stuff, and just seeing, him. I mean, he's 72 years old. He just can't. He don't have the money to put a new roof on. He don't
Mm,
have the ability. This was a hardworking man who had a concrete company for 20, 30 years. Now he just can't do it. And for us to give back, he was just so appreciative. Everything, I'm just appreciate this. I don't deserve this. Why do I deserve this? Well, you served our country, you know, and now you're a caregiver for your neighbor who has cancer, and we want to help you. And it's just that's the most rewarding, you know, thing for me is just seeing them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
The fishing and the hunting and that's just icing on the cake for them. They're getting their homes where they don't have to worry about it, and that roof will outlast him. He's 72.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Oh, for sure.
yeah.
Well, so what is your job responsibilities? Obviously it's different than the guys that are helping rebuild homes or finding those veterans, or are these veterans the same? Like we rebuild your home and like you just said, and then we're also going to take you on an outdoor adventure, or do you deal with guys that you're just taking hunting and fishing that are separate from the home building or rebuilding?
No, we have about 1,500 other veterans, I think, in the system that needs assistance.
Uh-huh.
And so everybody that I take is somebody that we've uh, talked to and asked them about, but we don't tell them what we're going to do until we talk to them. They all have to go through a process, financials and everything. It's a really good system how they do it. We just can't help everybody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so then we present them with an outdoor adventure. We kind of handpick some that we know, really deserves it or needs it. So,
So, what has been the coolest trip that you've taken a veteran on?
um, well, I took a guy hog hunting in Texas, and he loved. I mean, this guy's probably been in hundreds of firefights. I mean, he's been in the things that I heard him tell me. It just blows my mind. And
Mm.
he just said, "Man, I want to kill a hog. I want to kill a hog." So we go down there, and
Where's this guy from?
this guy was from North Carolina,
Okay.
and um, he wanted to kill a hog. So we went there, and of course, there was this big boar come in and couldn't get on it. It was getting dark, and uh, and then all of a sudden, about 40 come in. Just you know how it is. You've probably hog hunted,
Oh yeah.
and it was like you just pick one out and pick the biggest one out and shoot
Not
it.
since yesterday.
Yeah, oh, yeah. So if I lived in Texas, I'd be doing a lot of hog hunting too.
Yeah. So he picks one out.
Picks one out, shoots, drops it in its tracks, and I mean he just goes crazy. And this guy was actually born in Puerto Rico and
Huh.
wasn't an embalmer and going to college. And then when 9/11 hit, he said, "I'm enlisted." My dad was enlisted, and he went enlisted. They had to send him to school to learn how to speak English before he could join. And I mean, he's something else. He's a mess. But
Hmm.
yeah, I enjoyed that. I enjoy them all. Every one of them's different. You got the calm guy, you've got the wide open guy, you've got the older guy that served in Vietnam. I mean, that's the good thing about Purple Heart Homes. We try to help everybody. Not just you know some of them. I'm hearing stories about the Vietnam era is forgotten. Well, that's not. We're here to help the aging veteran that needs help. You know,
Hmm. Yep.
because they all need help and they all serve their country.
Yeah, and time waits for no man. I remember as a kid, and both of my grandfathers served in World War II.
Mm,
Well, they're both gone,
right.
and most World War II veterans are gone.
Gone.
And now it's the Vietnam veterans. I'm
Mm,
43, and now these are the guys that are now in their 70s,
right.
you know, maybe approaching 80 in some situations. But yeah, it's and they didn't. The World War II veterans were treated like heroes when they came home.
Right.
Parades and all,
Yep.
it, it was an honor. These Vietnam veterans are, like you said, they are left behind. They are forgotten about. People
Hmm.
protested our involvement. That
Right.
wasn't their decision. They were just serving
No.
their country.
Exactly.
Whether our government was right or wrong in sending them there, it doesn't. That's not even important. These
No.
guys were serving, and yeah, they were a lot of times ostracized then and forgotten
Hmm.
about now.
Yeah. I was born in 1968. So my dad was, he was in the Army when he got out of high school. That's what he did, you know. And mom, if you wanted to go with him, you had to get married at 18 years old. And at 19, I was born, you know. So,
Hmm.
he was in Germany and come over, and then I lost my dad to cancer when he was 52. But my uncle was a major in the military, flew helicopters, two, three or four tours over in Vietnam, got all kind of medals for flying helicopters with bullet holes, 42 bullet holes in them, and he was like a medevac helicopter, and you just hear the stories and you see it, and what they went through. I understand it better now. I didn't as a kid. Now
Right.
I see, and then growing up with a lot of the Iraqi vets, and then I've got nephews that's enlisted in Marines, and now one of them's in Ranger School, and for these kids to come out at 18 years old, they didn't have a hope back in 1968. They wanted to join the military because there was really, that was all they had
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
were drafted.
My dad was drafted for Vietnam, and
Yeah.
he failed his physical. They found a hole in his heart, saved his life.
Oh,
Had
wow.
open heart surgery. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And he's
Yeah.
got a gnarly scar on his chest, and yeah, they found a little hole there, repaired it, and said you're good to go, but you're not going to Vietnam.
Hmm. Probably saved
So
his life in two different ways. I mean,
yeah,
he
for
met him.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
crazy.
wow. That's awesome. But, you
I wouldn't
know,
be here. You know.
yeah, that's right. I was going to say you would be
Hmm.
here
Hmm.
with that nice horn back there and all that nice mount you got back there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's my wife's
So,
decorations back there. She's put the fisherman stuff. I got the deer stuff
oh
over here.
yeah, yeah. So, how do you guys find these veterans? I think that's something that people would like to know. Like, okay, I know this veteran who's maybe he's served a long time ago. Mentally, he's fine, but
Yep.
he's struggling with he needs help with his home or whatever the thing is, and they think Purple Heart Homes might be able to facilitate aiding this guy. How do you guys find them? People send them to you. Do they apply on the website? Like, how does that process
Yep.
work?
A little bit of all the above. I mean, we're partners with Fox Sports and just did a big push for the Indianapolis 500, and we were there for 3 weeks. Excuse me, and they run commercials for us, and we've been getting calls constantly from that already,
Mm.
and then just talking to people, especially in the Indianapolis area. We concentrated on that area because the 500 wanted to. Fox Sport, I think, was their first year doing they want to show Indianapolis that Fox Sports cares. Thanks,
Hmm.
for letting us get the 500. Now this is what we're going to do for your community. So we've got some really good partnerships going there. I think we did 6 projects. We're in the process of doing 6, but we finished 3 of them. I know, and word of mouth. Uh, Texas is the number 2 state in the country with veterans. Number 2, of course, behind California. So we're having a
Hmm.
big push for Texas right now because we know there's so many veterans in your area, and Texas is the size of, I mean, it's big. So from top to bottom, we know there's needs. And
Mm.
we just finished up a HVAC system in the Houston area with a guy, and I think he was 30 something years old, Purple Heart guy. You know, I don't know how he found us, but he found us. We went in, and I think we spent $22,000 on his heating and air system and replaced it
Mm.
because he just didn't have the money to do it. But he
Mm.
took a bullet for our country or a mortar, and it's a shame that him and his young family's got to be without heat and air conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said around the Houston area?
Yeah, yeah.
My grandfather, my grandparents lived in Houston. Let me
Okay.
tell you something. In the summertime,
Yeah,
Houston's about as humid as it gets. It is
yeah,
freaking miserable. You go outside and you're
yeah,
sweating,
yeah,
and the
yeah,
mosquitoes can carry you off. I tell you
yeah.
what, man.
I've got two
Uh,
two veterans I'm taking to bring them back to Texas the 22nd of June. We're going to do a little fishing, a little hog hunting, maybe a little axis deer hunt or something. I'm not
yeah.
looking forward to it.
The
I mean, I
nighttime
played
fishing
golf.
sounds good.
Yeah, I played that golf tournament this weekend, and it was 83. That's about perfect, you know.
Yeah,
But it's going to be probably 93 to 98 in the end of June.
yeah. There's nothing like I think the most grueling work, like just from a hunting perspective, that I've done getting a property ready for deer season. You get a new
Mm-hmm.
property, it's late spring, early summer. You go out there and you figure out you're so excited. All right, this is where we're going to put a feeder. Look at this draw. We can just put a blind here. We don't even need a feeder here. Building a feed pen to keep cows out.
Yeah,
So driving T posts when it's 107 degrees
yeah.
outside and there's ticks everywhere. That's about the most unpleasant thing I think that
Yeah.
is is involved with setting up a deer
Oh yeah.
lease. The rest of it I enjoy. And when
Yeah.
that project's done, I'm like, oh, thank God that's over. But it always, me and my buddy were joking about it the other day when we were out moving leases. Like, remember that feed pen we put up? It was actually a farm in Oklahoma, but
Yeah.
it's 45 minutes north of us here in North Texas. And you remember last July when we put that feed pen up and it was 103 degrees outside? And I was like, we're gonna have to do that again on this new place in Childress, right?
Yeah.
Because we just got it. Yeah, and you
Man.
want to get photos, and you're excited to see what you have on a new place, and it's like,
Oh yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you get to do it
Y'all
all
have
over again.
y'all have Rios where you're at?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Go back to that Clay County Turkey Fest thing. The only thing I've never killed is a Rio turkey to get my Grand Slam.
really,
Yeah.
huh?
And I was leaving Texas and going to Nebraska, and then I didn't get a Merriam in Nebraska. Like
Mm-hmm.
2 hours we tagged out. But I came to Texas and it rained for 5 straight days. I heard one bird
Mm.
gobble on I guess the next property. I was on a 17,000 acre ranch, and I think I was two
Oh wow,
ranches over trying to find a turkey.
yeah,
But
yeah.
so I left Texas without my Rio. So that's the only bird I need to make my Grand Slam.
Okay. So when did you? Because, and I'll ask you this because things have changed for Osceolas. They are now sky high as far as price goes.
Yeah.
Because you can only find them in Florida. You can find Rios in multiple states, Merriam's all
Yep.
over the West, Easterns. I mean, I went
Mm-hmm.
to Tennessee this year and got my first Eastern,
Yeah.
but you can only go to Florida for the Osceola,
Yep.
and there's not a lot of public ground in Florida. And these
Yeah.
outfitters, I mean, turkey hunts can be $3,000-$4,000 now. So
It's
when did
ridiculous.
you get your Osceola?
Well, I was fortunate enough being in the industry a long time ago. I met this girl named Larissa Switlick. She's got her own show, and she lives down in that area. And she would go to Illinois hunting with us some, and she came to North Carolina and hunted. And she's like, "Yeah, I want to come down and go fishing and go turkey hunting." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I've got a private orange grove, orange trees everywhere." And so, yeah, back then I think the guy was charging $1,000 or something to come hunt.
Mm.
but somehow I think she got us on. I didn't. It didn't cost me a dime. So I
Right.
was done. I was done in 45 minutes. Killed a big
Nice.
old 12.5 inch beard. Nice turkey. Come
Yeah.
in, put a show on for the camera. Killed it. And
Can't beat that.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you'll have to come back down to Texas and get that elusive
Oh
Rio.
yeah,
I've never heard anyone be like, "Oh, the Rio's the one I can't get," right? Like
yeah. I know. That's right. That's the easiest one in the world to get, and I
that's what they
can't.
say. We'll just, but a lot of serious turkey hunters will say Merriam's are actually the least intelligent because I always was like, "Don't you disparage my Rios," you know?
Yeah,
But a lot of them will be like, Merriam's. They give it up kind of easy.
yeah,
Eastern's the hardest for
yeah.
sure. And I experienced that in Tennessee. Like I could not, we could not get these birds
Right. They
away.
just
They were all henned up, no
yeah,
interest in calling, decoys, nothing. I'm like,
yeah,
I know where they're roosting, can't kill them. Talked to a gal, my friend Linda Powell from Mossberg, and so we were closer to Nashville. She was more in the Memphis, outside of Memphis area. She was like, same thing, dude. We were there 4 days, nobody killed a bird.
yeah,
Could not, it was just that time of the season. They ain't leaving the hens.
yeah.
So we're gonna go
That's
back next year to the same property and go like 2 weeks earlier. Should be a hopefully a different
right.
outcome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
You need to come to North Carolina. I'll put you on one.
Heck yeah.
Yeah,
So North Carolina is known for having massive black bear. Uh,
yeah.
is your property in the region
It,
where the bears are?
20 years ago, if you saw or heard of a bear, it was rare. Now I've got 4 or 5 on every feeder. It's crazy. Now they're not as big as the eastern bears. Down east on the coast, they're 5, 6, 7, 800 pounds.
Oh
These
yeah.
are, you know, two, three, 400. One we had a 14-year-old kid killed one that they estimated at 550 pounds, which was
Mm.
it was huge. I actually took 4 of us to get it up on a trailer. It was a big bear.
Uh-huh.
But they just don't come out during the day. Now my son-in-law he harvested one this year,
Uh-huh.
deer hunting. I told him, I said, look, there's bear coming in there every day, and he's scared to death. Walk down the trail with a bear. He goes in there, and the bear come out and he takes one.
Uh-huh. So they're primarily nocturnal though.
Yes, I've seen. I mean, I've been hunting here for 20 something years, and they're on my feeders like crazy. And I've seen maybe 2 or 3 sightings in the daytime.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So see, that would be pretty problematic if these bears were just running deer off
Mm.
nonstop.
Yep.
If you think about a 300-pound raccoon,
Yeah. That's
I
what
don't
they
want
are.
that on my deer lease.
I
I
don't
don't. I
either.
don't want to deal with that.
I'm
I
about
can't
to
imagine
hire
trying to.
bear dogs and bring them down here and let them chase them up out of here.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
They
do you
just
just get a tag as a North Carolina resident, or
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
So one per
Lifetime
season?
layout, one per season. Lifetime
Huh.
members, I'm a lifetime member, so they just send me mine, but I think you have to actually purchase it.
Uh-huh.
Couple bucks or something. It ain't much,
Yeah, yeah.
but
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. We have
yeah,
bears in like West Texas, and then some of them are they get sometimes once in a while they'll see them in East Texas. They come from Louisiana or whatever.
yeah. Wow,
Uh,
I didn't know
but
they
they're
had bears.
protected here. We don't have any tags. We don't have tags for them
Oh
or anything like that.
man, they need to do everything they can to keep them out.
Right? I don't want them.
They're like
Bears are
hogs.
cool.
Once they get started, they run off everything and eat everything.
Let me. I'm happy to travel, to another state or even Canada to hunt them, but I don't want them here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I hunted with Hank Parker, Flesh and Blood. Billy Parker and I are really good friends, and I've had Hank Jr. speak at my church several times, and Hank Seniors spoke at the church. But Billy and I became good friends, and we go bear hunting in Canada two
mm,
couple times, and I harvested one with that PSE TAC 15 crossbow. That was, there were big PSE people, and they wanted to have
hmm
me shoot one with a crossbow, and that was pretty exciting. I mean, it's a little different. Them things I've seen a lot of things that a bear would do, and I know I don't want to mess with them. I'm a bear with cubs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So was
So
that where did you go in Canada?
we went into let's see.
Alberta?
Yeah, we went in, I'm trying to think. We, I went to Saskatchewan, but that was on a deer hunt. Yeah, it was in Alberta.
Okay.
But
That's where I shot this
no,
guy.
it was Saskatchewan. It was Saskatchewan.
I shot that one
Oh
in Alberta.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Thank
What
you.
that like?
About 400 pounds.
Yeah, it's like it was 354. I took one that was about 400 or 350 to 400 pounds. You know, when they come out of springtime, they're hungry. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when you went, but we went in like May. It was
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
cold. Uh,
Yeah.
the lakes were still frozen in areas. Um, and then it got warm and the mosquitoes come out. I mean,
Yeah. You better have your thermocell.
yeah,
Yeah. But those bears up there, like they said he's 350 to 400, but his skull was like 19 inches, so nice pumpkin head.
right. No, it's got a big
And
head on it. Yeah, mine had a big head.
yeah.
I did a rug. Mine's hanging up in there. I built the
Uh-huh. Yeah.
barn finally. After 20 years, I finally got what I wanted. So I got my walk out of my kitchen into where my 2,700 foot heated and air conditioned garage where my boat's at,
Oh, nice.
indoor pickleball court for my wife and kids,
Heck
a
yeah.
ping pong table, golf net. So
Uh-huh.
got what I wanted finally.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't they were kind of apprehensive. They're like, we don't really like to weigh these spring bears because
No.
they've lost 30%, 40%
Yep.
of their overall body weight. Like this bear might weigh 600 pounds
It
in the
would. Yeah.
fall, but he's come out of hibernation and
Yep.
he's looking pretty thin. I was like, well, he looks pretty big to me. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
but people they get upset if you're like, well, it only weighs 300 pounds. And I'm like, I don't
Uh,
care.
yeah.
How big is his head? That's
That's
how you
right.
measure a
That's
trophy
that's
anyway.
exactly how you measure it. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, right on, my friend Bryan. It's been great getting to visit with you.
yeah,
Uh,
enjoyed it.
Purple Heart Homes, huge fan, obviously. Thanks for all you guys do
Yeah.
to give back to our veterans uh, on the home side, and then I'd say your division or your part in this organization, taking these guys out
Yeah.
on. What a cool job too. You
It is.
you know
I'm the luckiest man in the world. That's
yeah.
I get to do that. And back to my main goal, and I'm corporate relations director. I still have to. The goal is to raise money to help veterans. We have a lot of good partners that help us in this. We have GSM, we have Pure Fishing, Berkeley, Abu Garcia, Home Depot and Lowe's. They see the mission. I mean, they don't get mad that one's giving us one thing and one's giving us another. These are all funds that we can use to help these people. They're in it for the veteran, and that's what everybody
Mm,
should be. Nobody should be saying, "Well, we don't want you to do this. We don't want you to do that." We're a nonprofit organization. We're growing tremendously, but we have a Hearts of Honor program to where any listener can go to our website, which is, I don't know if you put it on there, but it's purplehearthomesusa.org. You can become
mhm,
a Hearts of Honor member, $25 a month, whatever you want to give, one time gift. And we really, that's our money, what we call purple money, so we can do the things that we do. I mean, everything we do is we raise it. Uh,
mhm.
we get grants from North Carolina, of course, but that's restricted money. But we want to help people. We cover all 50 states, Puerto Rico. We've been to Alaska, Hawaii. I
Mm.
think we've done projects. So I think we've done in 48 states. I think we've done work. There's a couple states we hadn't done in, but
Oh,
we just want people to get the word out. We have chapters. We're looking for chapters in the Texas area. Somebody who will be willing to partner with us to have an outreach in your area, like a veterans organization. They have people who they know need something. Well, through Purple Heart Homes, they can get it to us, and we can take care of their project with their help. So we're trying
mhm,
to build
mhm.
chapters in the Texas area because it's such a big state.
So purplehearthomesusa.org
Yes, sir.
is the website. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Nobody deserves it more than
Exactly.
those who have served this country, taken a bullet
Mhm.
for this country.
That's right.
No doubt about that. So I appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
luck
you
on
for
that
your time.
Friday night bass fishing tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of good fishing around here, but I do my
Hope you get that
best.
22-pound stringer and take
That's
home
right.
first place.
I think the 22-pound stringers are done. Shat spawns over. They spawned out. That's done.
Okay. So yeah, our spawn's probably a little earlier. Ours is
Yeah.
April into early May. When is y'all's your spawn?
It's April, May.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, cool. Well, thanks again, man. It's been
Good
great
deal.
visiting with you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Good luck getting that Rio.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye bye.